said they were not planning on running a whole lot of laps in practice. It seems like your plans have changed now.
Well, I haven't hit nothing yet, so they're happy. But, well, we're just not good. I mean, we don't have the handle on it yet, and I think everybody's searching for it. So, you know, we'll just do the best we can, try to get the best we can, but I think we'll be all right.
We'll let Jack hit the track, and one of the reasons that crew chief Chris Showalter did not want Jack Sprague to take a lot of practice laps is because he wrecked his primary truck at testing in January. Ray?
Well, Wendy, we're standing down at the other end of the garage area, and if you take a look at yesterday's practice sheet, you'll notice that the 04 of Bobby Hamilton in his Lufkin Pro Series Dodge had no time. He was prepared to go out on the track to take a couple of laps, but then that's when the big crash happened. So what is Bobby Hamilton doing right now? Not a thing. Check this out. The truck's up on jack stands. Nobody working on it. It's just hanging out. All the guys are up here on top of the truck, just sitting around. Where's Bobby Hamilton? He's out in the lounge watching us on TV. Why? These guys did so much testing across the time of the winter. They said, we know what we've got underneath us. This is a truck they call Freak, and they've run it here a number of different times. They're very confident in what they have. Even though it has a new body, they believe they've got the handle on this truck. So I'm not even sure we'll see Bobby Hamilton practice in this session.
That's one of those deals where it's good to be the king. You know, that's Bobby's truck, and he's pretty confident about what he's got, and he doesn't want to practice, so he's not going to practice. And they validate everything they do so well when they come to test Bobby Hamilton Racing. They back-to-back and back-to-back everything they do so that they know what kind of truck they've got.
And they have two teammates, too, Michael. They've got Casey Atwood in the 4 truck, and they've got Chase Montgomery in the 18 truck, so they can glean some of the information off those trucks also to try to keep up with the racetrack. We hear all the drivers, and I think you will attest that anytime you come down here after the 24-hour race, that the track is a little bit slicker than it was when you tested down here. So they have to try to chase the racetrack, and that's what these drivers are out here trying to do, is keep up with the racetrack.
But, Phil, at 9 in the morning, the track's been it's set all night long. It's as good as it's going to get. I mean, it's not going to be any better at 9 at night than it is at 9 in the morning because it's cooled off. The asphalt's as cold as it's going to be. It doesn't matter if the sun's shining right now. It can't heat up that fast. So when they left pit road for practice this morning, the track was as good as it's going to be when it's dark outside. So that's why these guys are all concerned. They know that they've got pretty ideal conditions right now, and they better get them tightened up or it'll be big-time trouble tomorrow night.
3 wide going into turn 3.
Boy, I think the
truck.
46 decided maybe the 13 didn't realize it was 3 wide going into the turn, and he backed out of that hole he got himself into.
That's why you see Dennis Setzer getting in so little trouble throughout his career. I think he's completed almost 99% of the laps over the last 2 seasons, and the only race he didn't finish was because of engine trouble.
Now, Phil, Bill Lester is our fastest truck right now at a 47.25-second lap. That was in a tight draft we documented when he crashed with Brandon, or when Brandon Witt crashed. He went out for a qualifying run all by himself, just like it's going to be when he goes to qualify later on. And he ran a 49.54. That's over 2 seconds slower than he's drafting. But 49.54 is about the fastest qualifying run with a truck all by itself on the track that we've seen. So he's not only fast in race trim, looks like he's got a fast truck for qualifying as well.
And we haven't seen that many actual qualifying runs because of the magnitude of packs running around this track.
We saw Regan Smith, the 19 truck, another one of the 12 trucks that has to qualify his way in, and he ran about a 49.80. So he was almost 2.5 tenths of a second slower than Bill Lester in his qualifying run. Now, it's with this many trucks on the racetrack, you may get a little bit of help anyway. It's almost impossible to get a completely clean lap, but you try to do the best you can. You try to get as far away from all the trucks as you can, and then you see where you land.
David Rudeman right now is running a qualifying run. He's all by himself, not anybody in his windscreen at all, and he just ran a 49.19. So that's a pretty fast lap right there for Rudeman.
And he looks right now. You look at the computer, and he's 26 fastest, but he knows that was a real good lap. Even though he's 26 fastest, that means he hasn't been out drafting practice yet this morning.
Let's go back down to the garage and Ray Dunlap.
Well, Rick, you see Billy Wilburn, the crew chief for Brendan Gaughan, is putting some tape on the front grille of his Jasper Dodge as they get ready to go out. They've got sticker tires on this thing. They're taping it off, and they have cooled down the engine. So Brendan will be ready to make a qualifying run here. So we'll be able to see if he, as long as he does not get any help on the racetrack, we'll know what these guys actually have. And Brendan just said that he feels like this truck is really under him very well. They're very happy with the shock package. This truck is called T1. It's Lone Star, and it's the one that Brendan used to win 3 of his 4 races at Texas. So they love this truck, and they're ready to go out for a qualifying run. Wendy?
Our reigning champ, Bobby Hamilton, is not out on the track for practice. Bobby, I see you're hard at work inside your hauler. What are you working on?
We're actually just working a couple of cut teams on some tire data stuff. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on with tire wear issues and stuff. We know Goodyear does a good job, but evidently the racetrack has just got a lot more abrasive, and the things are running a lot faster, and everybody puts weight in the rear of these things to make them turn. So we're sort of approaching like Darlington. We said if we stay off the racetrack, we got tires on everybody, just like we did at Darlington. So we just selected not to run any.
So you're not going to run any laps this morning's practice?
Well, we run 2 yesterday, I think, just because NASCAR makes you do that. Then we're going to qualify and let them impound the truck. I mean, good God, all we did was drafting down here, testing. Surely the thing's close enough to race. You know, so we'll see.
Our reigning champ sitting out this morning's practice, Rick.
And not a very unique thing. We've seen that many times out of Bobby Hamilton, where he very rarely will get out on the track for extensive practice. Bill Lester up on top of the charts. Brandon Witt, Mike Skinner, the top 3. This Monday, Speed presents a NASCAR show for the NASCAR masses. NASCAR Nation. More than just news, it's an all-access pass to the hottest sport in the country. Declare your citizenship to NASCAR Nation. Series premiere Monday at 7 p.m. exclusively on Speed Channel. Again, that's 7 p.m. for NASCAR Nation.
I got me a special on that show every week.
You are a part of that, Michael.
I'm going to give
We've got the 07 we're seeing right now. That Sean Murphy is being pushed around the track. We saw he had problems yesterday, but they did not bring out a backup truck for today's running. He was involved in this mishap at the back of this. He runs into the back, actually, of Deborah Renshaw.
So check out all the smoke coming out of this truck. There he goes. That was oil smoke. He busted the oil cooler or something in the front.
This was just a few moments ago, actually minutes ago, during the second practice. Brandon Witt had the air taken off of the back and got up into the wall. Good. And then the 07 wasn't able to make a complete lap, and so they brought out the caution because they thought something may have fallen off of that truck. So we're under caution again for our second practice for the Florida Dodge Dealers 250. And welcome back to the second truck practice for the Florida Dodge Dealers 250. Remember to stick with us right after this practice is Busch Series practice. That is from 10 to 10:45. We'll take a short little break and then come back at 11:15. And then continuing on with Speed Week's coverage, the Fox family has the Gatorade Duel at Daytona. That's on FX at 1 p.m. NASCAR Live follows that at 3:30. Then the Busch Series final practice at 4 p.m. And that will all be finished up with the Florida Dodge Dealers qualifying for the 250 that will be held on Friday. Let's go down trackside to Wendy Venerini.
David Rudiman sits 26 on the charts, but that time is a little bit deceiving, folks, and that's because, David, you were not in a draft. You ran that lap pretty clean on your own. Did it feel as good as it looked?
Felt really good. You know, I think it's just kind of a, you don't ever know here, though. You know, it's so you can get a good gust of wind going your way. So we're going to go out and try a couple other things here and make sure it's legit. But guys at Toyota Racing Development gave us good horsepower here. Guys been working really, really hard back at the shop, an extreme amount of hours. Give me a great truck here. So I feel like, yeah, I hope it'll stack up.
Are you just going to be running clean laps, or are you going to plan on drafting anymore?
Now, we did all our drafting yesterday primarily, so I think we're just going to kind of concentrate on qualifying today and see what happens.
All right, David Rudiman, a couple more clean laps for him, and then he's done for the day, right?
Well, Wendy, we can add another truck that's done for the day, and that'd be the Mopar Dodge. About 3 minutes ago, Gene Need said, put her up on jack stands, boy, we're ready to go qualifying. Ted, you must be pretty happy with the truck.
Pretty happy with it. Plus, you know, the tires are wearing down and right front's starting to come apart a little bit. So no sense going out there. It's time for the big one to happen. So we're just tweaking with it, you know, a little wedge, a little this, a little that. So we're getting that close. like I say, it's time to park it and get ready for the race.
Were you loose at all? Because we saw a number of guys loose out there on the racetrack. I was curious as to whether the weather was the factor on that.
Yesterday, everybody was loose. Today, the weather's gotten a little bit cooler in the morning like this, so they're not quite as bad, but they still are. Hope our #1 truck isn't, though, so, you know, we kind of played that hand. You know, we may not qualify very well, but I believe this thing will race right to the front.
Okay, good. That's Ted Musgrave. They're done for the day, ready to qualify later tonight.
Got a good shot of Brendan Gaughan. We documented earlier that he was in the garage. Billy Wilburn was getting the truck ready to make a simulated qualifying attempt. Brendan just ran a 49.57 on his qualifying run, which was a good full 2 seconds off what he had practiced in drafting practice.
You can see him there coming down the back straightaway. He's pretty much by himself, but we saw a truck in the shot when we first panned down the back straightaway that Brendan can see. He's on the same straightaway as that other truck, so he's getting some drafting help. It's enough to make a little bit of difference in his time, but 49.50 is what he run, and that's in the ballpark. We've seen most of the guys run around the 49.50 in qualifying runs.
Yeah, David Ruderman was 49.63, Bill Lester 49.54, so that's right in the ballpark of where he needs to be to get in this field.
And just to reiterate, Brendan is one of the 12 that is fighting for 6 spots remaining. 30 positions are locked up already in this field, and there are 12 trucks trying to take the final 6 spots that will take place at qualifying tonight.
There's Ty Bodine, the 66 truck. We saw him win 2 races last year in the number 30 Toyota that Chad Chaffin is now driving. This is the Fiddleback team. They ran number 66 and 67 last year. Todd actually ran a race or 2 for them earlier in the season, but he joined this team at the end of the season. They switched to Toyota, and this will be their first effort in a Toyota.
Another cat I just watched do a qualifying run, Phil, is Regan Smith, and he ran a 49.48. So he's got himself in a position to race into the field for sure. That's a fast time, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see which one of those 12 guys fit into the 6 that get to race.
As we mentioned, there's a lot of good equipment here. There's 7 high-financed, factory-supported teams vying for those 6 positions, along with 5 other trucks. But some good truck, high-financed truck, is going to go home from this race. At least one.
Well, 4 drivers that have to race their way in are actually past Craftsman Truck Series winners, and 2 of them are here at Daytona. Chad Chaffin won 2 races last year. Mike Wallace, Robert Presley, both have won at Daytona, and Brendan Gaughan has won 8 times in the Truck Series. And so those 4 drivers have wins in this series, but have to race their way into Friday's race. Coming this February to Speed Channel, Build or Bust. One novice bike builder has 30 days to create a one-of-a-kind custom bike. If the bike makes the grade, they get to ride it home. Don't miss the season premiere Build or Bust, February 23rd at 8 p.m. on Speed Channel. Play the official fantasy games of Speed Channel Speed Fantasy Cup Auto Racing 2005. All you have to do is go to speedtv.com, register for Speed Fantasy Cup Auto Racing 2005 Nextel Cup Challenge. You can save $25 more by signing up for the 2005 Fantasy Value Pack. More than $750,000 in cash and prizes. 9 out of 10 people win. You can log on to speedtv.com. Check out Fantasy Cup Auto Racing 2005. Let's go down trackside to Ray Dunlap.
Well, guys, you can see as Rick Gay looks over the number 10 Power Stroke Diesel Ford, they just took the cooler machine off because they're getting ready to send Terry Cook out for a qualifying run. I would wonder at first why you would do that, but I guess since you won the pole here last year, you might as well give it all you got, right?
Well, you got to at least have an idea what you're going to do. I mean, we don't know what kind of tape configuration we're going to need. I know the temperature's going to be a little different tonight, but you got to at least make one run and get a feel for it. So that's what we're going to do now, and then we'll go back into race trim and finish up the practice and race trim.
Okay, there's just a couple of trucks sitting on pit road, so they feel this is a good time to go out for qualifying. Now, guys, I said yesterday that Mike Wallace had some of the best stats ever at Daytona, but I was completely wrong because I forgot about Terry Cook. This guy has run 5 races here, all 5 of them in the top 10. All 5 of them he has led the race. So Terry Cook so far has been the man in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series here at Daytona. Wendy?
Thanks, Ray. I'm here with Brendan Gaughan. We were just sitting here joking. Are you done for the day? How did that practice go?
I'm pretty happy right now. You know, the Jasper Dodge, we passed some guys on the outside. It's fast. We just did a qualifying run and couldn't quite make it to the start-finish line. We got a little hot, so shut it down early. But I'm pretty happy. The Jasper Dodge will make the show easy, and we think we got a shot to win this race.
making the show. You're one of those 6 trucks that has to race your way in, but you sit 5th on the charts. You have to be pretty happy with that.
No, we're very happy. This is the old Lone Star. This is my favorite Dodge truck out of the Orleans shop. So we're going to make Doug Baldwin and the Jasper Folks proud. We're going to get them a bunch of top 5s and hopefully some wins this year.
I'm sure he will. Let's go back up to Rick Allen.
Thank you, Wendy. Those 12 drivers that are trying to fill the 6 spots are in front of you now. Again, drivers with wins. Chad Chaffin 2 a year ago. Mike Wallace, Robert Presley both have wins on this track. And Brendan Gaughan with 8 career wins in the Truck Series, all trying to get in. And then you can't count out a Johnny Benson and a Regan Smith, who's got a teammate in Jack Sprague.
Yeah, Johnny had a good, strong second-place run. He came on mid-year, drove for Bill Davis, and had a good, strong second-place run. I believe it was at Texas. So he's definitely going to be a threat for wins and the championship.
He wound up in the top 5 about every week, it seems.
Sure did.
They'd race along for 100 miles or so, and all of a sudden here'd come Johnny, and he was just a mainstay in the top 5 all year long.
His demeanor was a lot like Bobby Hamilton's as well. When we talked to him before the race, he said, well, I don't know if I've got a good truck or not. And then, like you mentioned, every week, week in and week out, here he comes creeping up, and he's in the top 5.
Here's a big pack of trucks. These guys are all fighting a lose condition, Phil. So these fellas are trying to figure out what they're going to do to get the thing up under them for tomorrow night's race. I know this is a situation where Dennis Setzer's down alongside a guy. Looks like he might get him clear before he gets to turn 1, but that's when the trucks are the loosest, when you're down underneath a guy.
You know, we talked about the closure rate. I was talking to Ricky Craven this morning, and he said, I've never experienced anything like the closure rate that these trucks have. They punch such a big hole in the air. He said, I'm sure maybe 20 or 25 years ago with the old Winston Cup cars, it may have been like that when they were not near as aerodynamic as they are today. But he said, I've never experienced anything like this in all my years of racing, how quickly they close up.
And the thing that drives you crazy is you'll come flying up on a guy like that, closing 100 mile an hour faster than him, pull up beside him, and stall out. It just stops. You get frozen right there beside the guy. So that's why you see a lot of jockeying for positions, because guys are saying, I got to run, I can get there, and then they go to make their move, and the truck stops. They can't complete the pass. Ray, you got any idea why that might be?
Well, I do know one thing, Michael. You were asking during break whether or not they had to put a new engine in the 07 for Sean Murphy. If you're watching our practice session yesterday, you saw a great deal of smoke roll out of that. Well, they found out there wasn't enough oil in the engine, so Gene Christensen, the owner, said, let's put a new engine in there. He said, this is not a big deal because we're glad it happened today instead of at the start of the race tomorrow. So they're not that concerned about it. They're going to pull that engine out and get another one in. Here comes the hoist right now. They're getting ready to do that work, but there will not be any practice for them yet today, but they feel confident that they have found the problem. They'll get that rectified and be ready to go for qualifying later this evening.
Michael, the problem happened yesterday. They just realized it today.
Yeah, we realized it yesterday. He drove almost all the way around the track with the oil pump coming out of the motor, and they don't run well without oil. So a little bit of a setback for that team. Maybe they can get her tuned up and ready for tonight, though.
We see that actually familiar sight of the blue number 4 going by, but a different driver in that for the first few races this season. That's Casey Atwood driving the Bailey's number 4.
It's going to be hard to get used to for the first 4 races, that 4 truck not being Bobby Hamilton. We've seen Bobby Hamilton drive that truck for the last several years, full-time for the last 2 years, and here it is with Casey Atwood. But and why Bobby Hamilton did that was that truck obviously won the championship last year, so it is guaranteed a position in this race. Well, the new NASCAR rules allow a past champion to get in a race, or the most recent champion obviously would be the one that would get it. And Bobby Hamilton has another truck that he's going to run in at least 16 or 18 races with Timothy Peters driving it some. So he wants to ensure that that truck is going to get in the field. So he jumped in the 04. Here are the rules again. The 36th position would be the one that Bobby Hamilton could use for that 04 truck, guaranteed a spot in the race. So that's why he will run that truck the first 4 races to ensure that both the 4 and the 04 get in the race.
And again, the highest ranked 30 owners that are eligible, and by eligible we mean that they had to run all of the races last season, are eligible to start this race. And then we had 29 that fit that bill, and then obviously Bobby Hamilton, the previous champion, would take the 30th spot. And so we have 6 spots remaining, and we have 42 trucks trying to fill the 36 truck field, and so we have 6 spots remaining for 12 trucks. Let's go back down to Ray Dunlap.
Well, Rick, just want to clarify, as you were saying, there was one truck that did not make that qualification. Who is that? Well, that would be Robert Presley and his number 59 Melling Dodge. And the reason was this team opted not to go to Texas Motor Speedway last year. I asked Jim Harris, the owner, if he was disappointed about that. He said, of course, we wish we would have made every race. But he said with Robert Presley driving this truck, he had all the confidence in the world that they would be okay to make it. Now, the big question is, where are they on the charts right now, and are they one of the trucks that's going to be eligible to make it into this race? They're working hard right now, getting ready to go for a qualifying run. You see they've got the cool-down engine, or the cool-down machine on the engine here, so they're going to go out for another qualifying run for Robert Presley here, because they're one of those trucks that has to make it in on their qualifying time.
Yeah, Robert's being shown in the 19th position right now with a lap of 48.24, so that was obviously a drafting situation, because about the best lap we've seen somebody run by themselves is about 49.40 or 49.50, so it'll be interesting to see what Robert Presley can run in a qualifying type situation.
I watched this 99 and the 15 dive down into turn 3 with the 4, and it looked like they might have had a bit of a moment. There's the 15 ahead of the 4. Oh, it looked like Kerry might have got a little bit loose, had to get out of the throttle. Nice move by Craven. You know, he was heads up. He knew what was going on, and he dove to the outside of those trucks. But I think you see what these guys are dealing with. The 4 was right on the 15, and the 15 got loose getting in the corner, and then that's how wrecks happen. It always happens about 4 trucks back that can't see what's going on up ahead and can't make that move that Ricky Craven made.
So the 99 of Ricky Craven and Kerry Earnhardt make their way back into the infield in the garage area. Bill Lester still on top of the charts. We'll be back with more practice. Welcome back to the second practice for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Continuing with coverage of the Truck Series today. A very special show, a retrospective look at the 10 years of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. 10 years tough. That's the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series anniversary show at 5:30 p.m. and that will be followed up by the qualifying for the Truck Series at 6:30. Steve Park on the track again after his problems of yesterday.
And he's running all by himself. I don't know if he's got tape on the grill or not, but he's definitely getting a hold of the track with him running by himself to see what he's got. Goes up the hill there. These trucks run just as fast on the first lap as they do the second lap, Phil, so you'll want to be right around the bottom if you're making a qualifying run on both laps, because your first one might be your faster laps. Unlike the cars that have the restrictor plates on them, it takes us 2 or 3 laps to get up to speed.
Well, there's about 200 more horsepower at least with these trucks than the cars have. That's why they can get up to speed.
Saw a good look at the front end of that truck. It looks as though he is taped off, so looks as though he's trying to do a qualifying run.
Mike Wallace just made a qualifying run. He made a 2-lap run. He actually ran slower on his second lap by about a half a tenth of a second. Now, we've seen a number of these trucks run the mid-49s on a qualifying simulator run. Mike Wallace only ran a 50.11. So he is about a half a second off, it appears right now, from the trucks that are in qualifying mode. So they may have a little bit of work to do.
This is when everybody that is going to do some qualifying runs are trying to work them in. They're getting some single truck runs right now to see what's going on. There's the 19. We saw him have a little bit of trouble a minute ago and bring out the caution flag. He's coming off turn 2. Got a pretty clean lap going there as well.
How important right now in this practice are your spotters?
Not as important as they are when they're all
during the
drafted,
race, obviously, but if they're trying to get a qualifying run, these spotters are trying to find a hole somewhere on the track.
Yeah, well, you want to try to have your spotter tell you when the racetrack is clear from maybe going in turn 3 all the way around where you can leave. If you've got a truck going in turn 3, then you leave, you should have enough gap. But you still can't predict when someone's going to pull out in front of you when you come back around. So that's when you get so mad and so irate that, you know, why weren't they paying attention, just like your spotter was, to get you out by yourself?
You might have the greatest spotter in the world, and someone will pull out in front of you, and you say, well, go tell him not to do that. You know what you're doing. How come he doesn't know what he's doing? It is difficult, but it should be fairly simple when you're standing up on top to determine where a truck's at, and if your guy goes when you tell him go, he should fit in that hole. But we see it all the time, people pulling out in front of each other.
This is a track also where during the race we'll see more than one spotter some of the times, and so they'll have a spotter on the front stretch and then somebody on the back stretch as well, just because it's such a massive track and it's hard to see all the way around this track.
It really is, and we have a number of trucks that are painted alike. As Ray mentioned yesterday, we have 4 or 6 trucks that are painted yellow. So from on top of the grandstand to look on the backstretch to try to pick your truck out, because the spotter wants to look ahead. You've got to look ahead to see if there's going to be any trouble. So, and you want to be able to reference ahead of you, then look back. So to be able to catch your truck awfully quick, then sometimes you have a spotter on the backstretch.
Well, practice has concluded for the trucks. That means they will not be on the track again until qualifying tonight at 6:30, and so that's all the practice they're going to get. And let's go down trackside to Wendy Venerini.
Thanks, Rick. You know, the rules have changed in 2005 for qualifying. The trucks will actually be impounded after qualifying, and the teams will not be allowed to make any changes to the truck. So you see these checklists here on the truck are actually pre-race checklists. The teams will go through every single item, and each teammate that handles that will check it off with their initials. Another change that's going to be happening this year, you won't see them running the lighter oils like they used to for qualifying. They'd run the lightest oil, take it out of their truck, and then put race oil. Well, in 2005, you'll see them running the same oil that they'll be running for race conditions because they won't be allowed to change it after qualifying. And the final checklist item, we're at the 18 truck of Chase Montgomery. This checklist for Chase, he only gets one for qualifying, and it says, do not touch the brake pedal.
And the reason you don't want to touch the brake pedal is you actually push the brake pads back. You don't want any drag from the brakes. So after he completes his qualifying run, then he has to pump up the brakes to get the brake pads back against the rotor so he has brakes.
And that won't be affected when they come out onto the pit road because they pushed the truck out there anyway. Well, that has concluded the practice for the truck series for the last time today, and we'll be back for qualifying. Speed Channel's coverage of NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series practice from the Daytona International Speedway is brought to you by Cialis. Cialis is here. Ask your doctor if a free sample of Cialis is right for you. The final practice for the truck series over. Next time they'll be on the track will be in a single truck fashion for qualifying at 6:30 p.m. And we'll look at the speeds. Now, these are not indicative of what's going to take place for qualifying tonight because most of the practice we saw today was again drafting.
Exactly. These are going to be the speeds that will be more indicative of tomorrow night's race. About a 49.50 was about as good as we saw a truck running by itself, and that's about 181, maybe 181.5 miles per hour.
That 191 miles per hour that you saw on the top of the chart by Bill Lester, that's almost a 47 flat. And so we're talking about almost 2.5 seconds. The 2 seconds that's going to be the difference between what they're going to qualify and then what they're going to race at. There are 42 trucks that are trying to make the field in the Craftsman Truck Series, and that will all be determined at 6:30 tonight. So stay tuned on Speed Channel all day. It's a big day for the trucks, as at 5:30 p.m. There's a show that is a retrospective look back at the Craftsman Truck Series. But first, let's go down trackside to Ray Dunlap.
Well, Rick, I think it'll certainly be interesting on Friday night to see if saving tires was any big advantage for guys like Ted Musgrave or Bobby Hamilton, who haven't done much practicing here. The other teams that needed to get into this show are already working on their third set of tires here. So we'll see if during the running of our 250-mile race, whether that will make a difference. At the end of the night, will having tires left over be any big advantage for the guys who haven't practiced much? Wendy?
Looks as though some people are just kind of resting a little bit, like Bobby Hamilton did today. He rested all day today as far as not getting his truck back out on the track. Busch Series practice will follow right after this show, so make sure to stay tuned for that practice, which is next. I'd like to remind you on the Fox family today, the Gatorade Duel at Daytona will be on FX at 1 p.m. Following that up will be NASCAR Live at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And the final Busch Series practice takes place at 4. And again at 5:30, the trucks retrospective look. And then following that up will be the Florida Dodge Dealers 250 qualifying. So we've had an amazing 2 days, which normally would have been single truck runs. It turned into be drafting practice for 2 hours.
And because of that, we've had 2 incidents. We had a 4th truck incident yesterday in practice that will necessitate 4 of these trucks going to the backup. You see Kerry Earnhardt did not quite have Steve Park cleared. They made some contact. Todd Cleaver came along with nowhere to go, ran into the side of Kerry Earnhardt. All 3 of those trucks, along with the 8 of Deborah Renshaw involved. This is today. We saw Brandon Witt on the inside of Mike Skinner with a truck right behind him. Lost the air off the spoiler. We see that happen so often. He made hard contact. He's going to a backup truck.
And so the breeze blowing across the infield, Daytona International Speedway, that wraps up the truck practice at Daytona.